The call the distress signal reached Earth's lunar command at a 347 hours, cutting through the silence of the night shift like a blade through silk. Admiral Hyunwoo Park stood before the holographic display, watching the message unfold in fractured bursts of light and static. His weathered face remained expressionless, but his eyes, dark and calculating, absorbed every detail with the precision of a man who had spent 40 years preparing for this moment. The transmission came from Kepler 442, a star system 800 light-years from Earth. Home to the Kepler Coalition, a collection of peaceful species who had built their civilization on art, philosophy, and scientific discovery. They had no armies, no weapons, no defense against what was coming, and what was coming would destroy them. "Sir," Lieutenant Chen's voice was tight with urgency, "we're tracking 16 Vorthon battlecruisers entering the Kepler system. They've already begun orbital bombardment of the outer colonies." Park's jaw tightened. The Vorthon Empire, brutal, expansionist, and utterly without mercy. For 3 centuries, they had carved a path of conquest through the outer rim, enslaving civilizations and strip-mining worlds until nothing remained but ash and silence. The galaxy had learned to fear them, and the galaxy had learned that no one could stop them, until now. "Sound the alarm," Park said quietly. "Full mobilization. All personnel to battle stations." Throughout the lunar facility, klaxons began to wail. Red emergency lights bathed the corridors as thousands of men and women moved with practiced efficiency toward their positions. In the hangar bays, fighter pilots sprinted toward their craft. In the command centers, tactical officers brought weapon systems online, and deep beneath the lunar surface, in the heavily shielded dock that few outsiders even knew existed, 15 massive warships began to wake, the Terran Defense Armada. For decades, humanity had maintained a careful facade. Traders, explorers, diplomats. Earth's representatives smiled and negotiated at galactic councils, speaking earnestly about peace and cooperation. Other species saw humans as useful, perhaps even clever, but ultimately harmless. They had no idea what humanity had been building. Commander Yuna Kim arrived at the command deck moments later, her uniform crisp despite the early hour. She took her position at the tactical station, fingers dancing across holographic controls as she pulled up fleet disposition data. All ships reporting ready status. "Admiral," she said, her voice steady despite the weight of what they were about to do. "The Washington, Beijing, Mumbai, Lagos, Sao Paulo, all capital ships are prepared for immediate departure." Park nodded, studying the tactical display. The Kepler system glowed before him, overlaid with enemy positions marked in hostile red. 16 Vorthon battlecruisers, each one carrying enough firepower to level a planet. Against them stood nothing but unarmed civilians and the desperate hope that someone, somewhere, would answer their call. Earth would answer. "Launch sequence in 5 minutes," Park ordered. "All ships prepare for quantum jump. Destination, Kepler 442. The bridge crew worked in focused silence, each person a vital part of the machine that was about to reveal itself to an unsuspecting galaxy. These men and women came from every corner of Earth, from Seoul to Stockholm, from Nairobi to New Delhi. Different languages, different cultures, different beliefs, but united by a single purpose: to protect those who could not protect themselves. As the countdown began, Park allowed himself a moment to consider what they were about to unleash. For generations, humanity had hidden its true military capability, presenting itself as peaceful and non-threatening. It had been a necessary deception. Earth was still young on the galactic stage, still building alliances and establishing trust, but deception had its limits. And when billions of innocent lives hung in the balance, when peaceful worlds faced annihilation at the hands of tyrants, humanity's moral compass pointed in only one direction. 60 seconds to launch, Chen announced. Park touched the communication panel, opening a fleet-wide channel. Throughout the 15 capital ships, 5 carriers and 200 fighter craft, his voice carried to every soul preparing to risk everything for a civilization they had never met. "This is Admiral Park," he began, his tone measured and clear. "What we do today will change how the galaxy sees us. For decades, we have been observers, careful to avoid conflict, content to remain in the shadows. Today that changes." He paused, letting his words settle over the assembled fleet. "The Kepler Coalition faces extinction. They have no weapons, no armies, no means to defend themselves against the Vorthan Empire. They sent a distress signal into the void, not knowing if anyone would hear or if anyone would care. We heard them, and we care. When we arrive in the Kepler system, we will be revealing Earth's true military strength for the first time. The galaxy will learn what humans are capable of when we choose to fight, but more importantly, they will learn why we fight. We do not fight for territory. We do not fight for resources or glory. We fight because it is right. We fight because those who cannot defend themselves deserve protectors. We fight because mercy and strength are not opposites. They are two sides of the same blade. His voice hardened with resolve. The Vorthan Empire believes that power gives them the right to take whatever they want. Today we teach them a different lesson. Today they learn what happens when they threaten the innocent and humanity is watching. All ships prepare for jump. And remember, when this battle is over, the galaxy will know our name. Make sure they know it means something. The channel closed. Silence filled the bridge for 3 heartbeats. Then the universe folded. Quantum drives engaged across the fleet, tearing holes in space-time itself. The massive capital ships, gray and angular, their hulls adorned with the blue and white of Earth's flag, vanished from lunar orbit in cascades of light and impossible physics. 800 light-years away, in the burning skies above Kepler 442's third planet, the Vorthan war leader Krex Thule watched his bombardment with satisfaction. The cities below were in flames, their delicate architecture crumbling under the weight of plasma fire. Soon there would be nothing left but rubble and slaves. This was how the Vorthan Empire had conquered 100 worlds. Overwhelming force, swift brutality, no mercy. His tactical officer approached with a data slate. Supreme Commander, sensors are detecting spatial anomalies at the system's edge. Krex Thule barely glanced at the report. Probably more refugee ships trying to flee. His fighter screens would intercept them, easily. Destroy anything that moves, he ordered, dismissively. Then the anomalies resolved into something impossible. 20 ships materialized from quantum space in perfect formation, capital ships larger than anything the Kepler coalition possessed, flanked by carriers disgorging wings of sleek fighters. Their hulls were unmarked by the battles that had scarred Vorthan vessels. Pristine and purposeful, and they were moving with terrifying precision. Krex Thule's confidence evaporated like frost under a sun. Identify those ships, he roared. His sensor officer's hands shook as she worked her console. Unknown configuration, Supreme Commander. They're not in any database, but their quantum signatures. She looked up, her 3 eyes wide with disbelief. They originated from Sol system. From Earth. The bridge fell silent. Earth, the humans. Those insignificant traitors who smiled too much and asked too many questions. The species that talked endlessly about peace and cooperation at every council meeting. Those humans? This must be a mistake, Krex Thule growled. But even as he spoke, his tactical display updated with targeting data that made his blood run cold. Every human ship had weapons locked on his fleet, and according to his sensors, those weapons were unlike anything he had ever encountered. Energy signatures off the scale. Quantum computing networks coordinating movements with impossible precision. On the bridge of the Washington, Admiral Park watched the Vorthan fleet scramble to respond to their arrival. The enemy had numbers, 16 battlecruisers against Earth's 15 capital ships. But numbers meant nothing when you didn't understand your opponent, and the Vorthans didn't understand humans at all. All ships, battle formation Delta 7, Park ordered calmly. Fighters to forward screening positions. Capital ships prepare main batteries. The Terran Armada moved as one organism, ships sliding into positions with practiced grace. Fighter craft spread out in a protective screen, their pilots' thoughts linked through quantum encrypted networks that allowed them to react as a single mind. This was what humanity had learned from centuries of warfare on Earth, that victory came not from individual strength but from unity, from discipline, from the understanding that every person in the fleet, from the highest admiral to the lowest deckhand, was part of something greater than themselves. Commander Kim's voice cut through the tactical chatter. Admiral receiving transmission from the Vorthan flagship. They're demanding we identify ourselves and withdraw immediately. Park's expression didn't change. Open a channel. All frequencies, I want the entire system to hear this. When the channel opened, his voice carried across the void, calm and unwavering. Vorthon Forces. This is Admiral Hyunwoo Park of the Terran Defense Armada. You are hereby ordered to cease all hostile action and withdraw from this system immediately. The Kepler Coalition is under Earth's protection. Krexthul's reply came laced with fury and disbelief. Earth has no military. You are traitors and explorers. This is a deception. Then test that theory, Park replied quietly. Fire on these worlds again, and learn what humans do to those who threaten the innocent. For 5 seconds, nothing happened. Then Krexthul made the worst decision of his life. All ships, attack formation. Destroy the human fleet. The Vorthon battlecruisers opened fire. Plasma cannons lighting up the void with deadly intent, and humanity showed the galaxy what it had been hiding all along. The storm, the first Vorthon plasma salvo, crossed the void at near light speed, a wall of superheated death meant to vaporize the human fleet. Before they could react, the human fleet didn't vaporize. It danced, every capital ship executed, synchronized evasive maneuvers with impossible precision, their quantum-linked navigation systems predicting trajectory patterns milliseconds before the Vorthons fired. The massive vessels rolled and banked through space as if they weighed nothing. Plasma bolts screaming past their hulls to dissipate harmlessly into the void. On the Washington's bridge, Commander Kim's fingers flew across her tactical display. All ships reporting 0 hits. Counter-battery solutions calculated and locked. Admiral Park's response was measured, almost gentle. Fire. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations to come. The Terran capital. Ships unleashed coordinated railgun barrages, solid tungsten projectiles, accelerated to impossible velocities by electromagnetic rails stretching the length of each vessel. No energy signatures to detect, no heat bloom to track, just kinetic death moving at relativistic speeds. The first Vorthon battlecruiser never saw what killed it. A dozen tungsten rounds punched through its shields as if they were paper, shredding reactor containment and detonating fuel reserves. The ship vanished in the expanding sphere of white-hot debris. 3 more battlecruisers followed within seconds. Krexthul watched his fleet die and felt ice settle into his bones. This wasn't possible. The humans had no weapons, no warships, no military tradition. Intelligence reports had been clear. Earth was peaceful, defenseless, irrelevant. Intelligence had been catastrophically wrong. All ships, evasive patterns. He roared. Target their capital ships. Concentrate fire. The Vorthon fleet scattered like prey animals before a predator, trying desperately to adapt to an enemy that fought like nothing they had encountered. But humanity's advantage wasn't just technology. It was doctrine, strategy, and a simple truth that the Vorthons had never considered. Humans had been fighting each other for 10,000 years. Every war, every battle, every tactical innovation from ancient cavalry charges to orbital warfare, all of it had been catalogued, analyzed, and refined. When Earth finally built its first true war fleet, it carried the collected wisdom of humanity's bloodiest lessons. And now the galaxy would learn what that meant. Fighter craft from the carriers Enterprise and Valkyrie swept through the Vorthon formation like schools of silver fish, their pilots moving with preternatural coordination. Each fighter was linked to every other through quantum networks, their targeting computers sharing data instantaneously across hundreds of individual craft. Lieutenant Marcus Webb from New York flew wing with Sergeant Amara Okonkwo from Lagos. Their fighters had never trained together in the same physical squadron, but through the quantum link they moved as if they shared one mind. When Marcus broke left to draw fire, Amara was already rolling right to take the shot. When her weapons overheated, Marcus's were already firing. This was how humans fought, not as individuals seeking glory, but as a unified force where every strength covered another's weakness. A Vorthon fighter exploded under Amara's particle beam, and she heard Marcus's voice crackle through the comm. Good kill. 3 more on your 6. I see them, she replied calmly, already adjusting her vector. Braking starboard. You've got the shot. Confirmed. Fox 3. The Vorthon fighters vanished in synchronized explosions. Across the battle space, similar scenes played out hundreds of times over. Human pilots who had never met in person fought with the precision of lifelong battle brothers, their quantum link making them deadlier than any individual ace could ever be. On the Washington, Park watched the battle unfold with the detached focus of a chess master, playing against an opponent who had just realized they were already in checkmate. The Vorthans were skilled, experienced, and ruthless, but they fought as individuals seeking personal glory. Their commanders competed with each other. Their ships acted independently. Humanity fought as one. "Commander Kim," Park said quietly, "begin Operation Mercy." Kim's hands moved across her console and across the fleet. Orders rippled through the quantum network. The human capital ships stopped firing to destroy and instead began firing to disable. Precision railgun strikes targeted Vorthon engine cores, not to detonate them, but to cripple them. Electromagnetic pulse weapons shut down weapon systems without breaching hulls. Fighter craft used their superior maneuverability to physically block Vorthon ships from targeting coalition worlds below, accepting minor damage to their shields rather than allow civilian casualties. The galaxy watched through emergency broadcasts and sensor recordings as something unprecedented unfolded before their eyes. The humans were winning, and they were showing mercy. Krex, Thul's flagship, shuddered as human railgun rounds tore through his engine section with surgical precision. Emergency systems screamed warnings as power died across the ship. Around him, his bridge crew worked frantically to restore control. But it was hopeless. The humans had cut his ship's legs out from under it without killing anyone aboard. His communication officer looked up with defeat in her eyes. "Supreme Commander, 8 of our ships are disabled. 4 destroyed. The remaining vessels are requesting permission to retreat." Krex Thul stared at the tactical display, watching human fighters weave through his formation like ghosts, watching capital ships move with impossible grace, watching his proud, undefeated fleet be systematically dismantled by an enemy he had dismissed as harmless. This was what happened when you underestimated humans. "Order all ships to stand down," he said quietly, the words tasting like ash. "Transmit surrender codes." Park received the surrender notification and allowed himself the smallest of satisfied nods. "All ships cease fire. Maintain weapons lock but do not engage unless fired upon." The void fell silent except for the crackling of cooling metal and the hum of active shields. The Terran Armada held position around the disabled Vorthon fleet like shepherds around wolves who had finally learned fear. Park opened a general channel, broadcasting to every ship and station in the system, human, Vorthon, and Coalition alike. "People of the Kepler Coalition," he began, his voice carrying the weight of history. "You are safe. The Vorthon Empire came to your world seeking conquest. They found something they did not expect. Humans who believe that the strong have a duty to protect the weak. Who believe that mercy and power are not contradictions but complements." He paused, letting his words sink in across hundreds of receivers. "To the Vorthon forces, you are defeated but you are not destroyed. We could have annihilated your fleet. We chose not to. Because humans do not wage war for vengeance or glory. We fight only when we must, and we show mercy when we can. You will be allowed to return to your empire with a message. The galaxy has a new protector now, and we will not tolerate tyranny." On the surface of Kepler 442's third planet, in bunkers and shelters where Coalition civilians had huddled waiting for death, beings of a dozen species watched the sky and wept with relief and wonder. The humans had come, the impossible humans who smiled too much and asked too many questions, who seemed so gentle and curious. Those humans had arrived with warships like thunder and fought with the precision of vengeful gods. And then, at the moment of total victory, they had chosen mercy over massacre. Prime Counselor Thessa of the Kepler Coalition stood in the ruins of her government complex, watching the human fleet holding position in orbit like a shield against the darkness. She had sent that distress signal expecting nothing, or perhaps expecting help to arrive too late to matter. Instead, the humans had crossed 800 light-years in hours and saved her entire civilization before lunch. She activated her communication device with trembling hands. "This is Prime Counselor Thessa of the Kepler Coalition. We do not have words to express our gratitude. You saved us. Why? We have nothing to offer you in return." Park's response was immediate and warm. "Counselor Thessa, you don't need to offer us anything. This is what friends do for each other. Earth believes that the measure of a civilization is not its strength, but what it does with that strength. We choose to protect, not conquer." "But surely you want something," Thessa pressed, unable to comprehend such selflessness. "Territory? Resources?" Tribute? We want you to rebuild, Park said simply. We want your artists to create again. We want your scientists to continue their research. We want your children to grow up in peace. That is all Earth asks, that the galaxy becomes a place where beauty and knowledge can flourish without fear. Across the coalition worlds, beings looked up at the human ships with something that transcended gratitude. It was awe. It was the dawning realization that perhaps, just perhaps, the universe was not as cold and merciless as they had feared. Perhaps there were those who would fight not for conquest, but for righteousness. Perhaps the humans were the protectors the galaxy had been waiting for. Commander Kim stood beside Admiral Park, watching the tactical display as coalition rescue ships began moving among the damaged vessels, both their own and the Vorthon's. The humans had not only defended the coalition, they had ensured medical aid reached even their defeated enemies. Admiral, she said quietly, the galaxy is going to see this battle. They're going to know what we're capable of. Park nodded slowly. Yes, and they're going to see that we use that capability with restraint, with honor. They'll learn that humanity fights not because we enjoy violence, but because sometimes violence is the only language tyrants understand. He turned to face her, his weathered features serious but not unkind. This changes everything, Commander. Earth can no longer hide what we are, but perhaps that's for the best. Perhaps the galaxy needs to know that somewhere out there, someone is willing to stand between the innocent and those who would harm them. Kim glanced at the casualty report scrolling across her screen. 23 human fighters damaged, 4 pilots with minor injuries, 0 fatalities, against 16 Vorthon battlecruisers. We showed them what humans can do, she said softly. Now let's show them what humans choose to do with that power. Park smiled, a small, genuine expression that transformed his stern features. Already done, Commander. Already done. 6 hours later, galactic news networks, the footage spread across the galaxy at light speed, transmitted through quantum communication networks and hyperspace relays. Every civilized world from the core systems to the outer rim watched the same recordings. Human warships appearing from nowhere with impossible precision. Human, fighters moving like a single living organism. Human, weapons tearing through Vorthon, shields as if they were tissue paper, and then critically, impossibly, humans choosing mercy at the moment of absolute victory. In the halls of the Galactic Council, representatives from 100 species gathered in stunned silence, watching the battle recordings play on holographic displays. The humans, gentle, diplomatic, seemingly harmless humans, had fielded a military force more advanced than anything the Council had ever seen. And they had used it not to conquer, but to save. Ambassador Elena Ruiz of Earth stood before the Council, her posture calm and confident. She had known this day would come eventually. She had prepared for the accusations, the fear, the anger. What she hadn't prepared for was the reverent silence. Finally, the Council President, a crystalline being named Sarthax whose species had existed for 50,000 years, spoke in tones like wind chimes. Ambassador Ruiz, humanity deceived us. You presented yourselves as peaceful traders while building a war fleet in secret. Elena met his many-faceted eyes without flinching. We built a defense fleet, Council President, and we kept it secret because we were young and vulnerable in a galaxy that respects strength. We couldn't protect ourselves if everyone knew we were defenseless. But we never used that fleet for conquest. We used it exactly as we always said we would, to protect the innocent. The Kepler Coalition would be ash and slaves right now if we hadn't acted, she continued, her voice carrying across the chamber. And if keeping our capabilities secret for a few years meant we could save billions of lives today, then I would make that choice again without hesitation. Sarthax was silent for a long moment. Then impossibly he bowed, a gesture of profound respect in his culture. Humanity has proven something today that many of us had forgotten was possible, he said softly. That power and compassion can coexist, that the strong can choose to protect rather than dominate. Earth's deception is forgiven. Your actions speak louder than any words. Throughout the chamber, other representatives began to voice their agreement, some with relief, some with gratitude, and a few with the beginning of a new understanding. The galaxy had learned what humans could do when pushed to action, and they had learned that when humanity fought, not for glory or conquest, but for others. No empire in the stars could stand against them. 1 week later, Earth Admiral Park stood in his office at Lunar Command, looking out at the blue-green jewel of Earth hanging in the void beyond the viewport. Behind him, Commander Kim and Lieutenant Chen reviewed debriefing reports from the Kepler operation. The Vorthon Empire has withdrawn from 6 systems in the past 3 days, Kim reported. Their expansion has completely halted. Our intelligence suggests their entire military doctrine is being reevaluated. Good, Park said quietly. Fear alone doesn't create lasting peace, but respect does. They'll think twice before attacking peaceful worlds now. Chen pulled up another report. Coalition worlds are requesting formal defense treaties with Earth. The Delphic Assembly wants to join our alliance network. Even some former Vorthon client states are reaching out. Park turned from the viewport, his expression thoughtful. We need to be careful not to become what we fought against. We showed the galaxy our strength. Now we need to show them our wisdom. Every treaty, every alliance must be built on mutual respect and shared values, not fear, not submission. The world changed the day we revealed the fleet, Kim observed. There's no going back to being just traders and explorers. No, Park agreed. But perhaps that's how it was always meant to be. Humanity spent 10,000 years learning how to fight. Maybe it was all preparation for this, to become the protectors the galaxy needed, not the conquerors it feared. He looked at his officers with something like pride in his weathered features. We proved that humans can build weapons that rival gods. But more importantly, we proved that we have the discipline not to use them carelessly, the compassion to show mercy to our enemies, and the courage to stand between the innocent and the darkness. Park smiled, a rare, genuine expression. The galaxy wanted to know what humans are capable of. Now they know, and I think they're going to like what they see. Outside the viewport, Earth continued its ancient rotation, peaceful and beautiful, humanity's cradle, where 10,000 years of war and peace, triumph and tragedy, had forged a species capable of both terrible violence and transcendent compassion. The galaxy had awakened to humanity's power. Now it would learn to trust in humanity's heart. And somewhere, in the vast darkness between the stars, other predators who had viewed peaceful civilizations as prey began to reconsider their assumptions. Because now, when the innocent called for help, humans answered. And when humans fought not for glory, but for others, the universe itself took notice. End.